So we're at the end of the fifth parak in Shaar Habitachon, the seventh difference between the Baal Bitachon, the one who has trust in Hashem, versus the one who does not have trust in Hashem. So the seventh difference is the one who has trust in Hashem, he knows that Hashem controls everything, so therefore in his life there are fewer ups and downs. When things don't go his way, when things are taken away from him, when he feels things should be coming to him, but they didn't come to him, so he doesn't get down, doesn't get depressed. And when things are very optimistic and things look very good, he doesn't become himself overly optimistic. He realizes that the only constant in his life is the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore, so if I didn't get this thing I thought I should get, Hashem thinks I don't need it. And if it looks like this thing is going to really work out, well, it depends if Hashem wants it. So in a sense, it's a calmer life. It's more serene because you don't have the tumultuous, all these different factors and variables in a person's life. There's only one factor, there's only one constant, Hashem, and everything else is just playing into that. So that is how the trusting person approaches life. On page 420, we get now to the non-trusting person, the non-Baal Bitachon. So it says the Chovos Halevavos Shaar Habitachon Yirba Evloi lahasmadas pigei ha'olam olav. So he's very aggravated and aggrieved if he's struck by a series of things that doesn't want to happen to him, things that go the wrong way in his mind. His friend moves away. Now he's sad. He doesn't have people he felt he should have. He's unhappy if he's deprived of something that he wants. So Rabbi Miller says he thinks that his desires and ambitions are necessary for his well-being, and if something prevents him from achieving them, he is saddened. Again, a person is making assumptions, making an assumption that I know what's best for me, and then when it doesn't come to fruition, doesn't happen, so now I'm upset. That's the person who does not trust in Hashem. And he stockpiles as much as he can of the wealth in this world, as if he were insured against having to leave it. This person's amassing an amount of wealth that it looks like in his mind, he's guaranteed he's going to live till he's 95 and be able to enjoy it all, until 120, and be able to enjoy it all. The sorrow may all of emas hamavis, and the fear of death has departed this person. Kilu yamav lo yitmu, as if his days will never end. The chayav lo yichlu, and he's immortal. His life is never going to end. So he's acting as if he's going to live forever. That's how the non-Baal Bitachon looks at things. And then he doesn't concern himself with his ultimate destiny. Misasik ba'olam, and he's always busy involving himself with things that pertain to this world. He doesn't look into and analyze his Torah study, or his provisions for his journey, or his appointed destination. He's not thinking about where he's going. And his trust in his length of days is the cause of his increased desire for what the world has to offer. It's very interesting, right? So it's cyclical. So what happens is that he thinks that he doesn't trust in Hashem, so he's under the impression that he's going to live forever. Once he's going to live forever, then he's very interested in what this world has to offer, right? If you're going to a place and you're remember we went to Eretz when I was in 5th grade in the summer, in 5th and 6th grade, we went to Eretz for a month, rented a house in Yerushalayim, and you become very interested in where's the makol, where's the shopping, and where's this park. You can be there for a month. It's not just a vacation. You're going for a month. You already have a certain mindset that you want to know where things that if you're just in there, in and out in a few days, you're there for a week, you don't really care necessarily where everything is. So if a person views life like he's here for a while, he's going to be here, he's here for the long haul, so he becomes very interested in what this world has to offer. But if he's just in and out, then he's not so interested. The famous Mashal Chovos Chaim would often say about a train that he saw a guy was on a train and he's putting on window treatments and he's putting a little pot of flowers and he's like setting up his whole seat, and you look at the guy, he's a meshugana. This is not your house. The Chovos Chaim would say that's like a person in this world. He's making sure everything is perfect in his gashmias, in his possessions. He's a meshugana because it does mean a person can't have nice things. But again, it's not what, right? In Bitachon we've learned it's not what, it's how, right? It's the mindset. So if the person is viewing himself as, I'm here and I'm, making myself kavua here, that's a non-Baal Bitachon. The Baal Bitachon realizes life and death is in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hands. So I don't know what's going to happen. But it's like we saw the last time, a person should make sure his clothing is always white. That a person should always do tshuva the day before he dies. And a person doesn't know when he's going to die. He's always doing tshuva. So the Chovos Halevavos does not mean that a person shouldn't plan for the summer because he might die. Or he shouldn't plan for next year because he might die. So don't register your kids in school because who knows what's going to happen, right? And Rabbi Miller explained that's not how we're supposed to act. But there is a certain amount, obviously humility that a person has to have when he realizes that it's not for sure going to happen. Nothing's for sure. Nothing is coming to me. And therefore, a person has a different mindset. As opposed to the person who's a non-Baal Bitachon, he thinks he's here for the long haul, and therefore he's amassing a lot of wealth. And then things in this world call out to him. You wonder, certain people, they don't have an interest so much in things that are religious, in ruchnistic things. They're not interested so much. There was a Yid who, he was a kiruv rabbi. And he was in St. Louis for a tkufa. For a period of time, he was in St. Louis. And then he was in Sydney, Australia. And he moved to Melbourne. And I knew him when he was in Melbourne. And he said that the hardest place, I think he did kiruv in New York, he did kiruv in St. Louis, they went to Sydney. He said Sydney is the hardest place to do kiruv, in his opinion. Is why? Because no one's missing anything. You have it was world-class, Bondi Beach, like this world-class beach, if that's what you're into, right? People fly there to go surfing. It's like something. And the quality of life there is gewaldig. Again, you have the opera house, and you have, the streets are clean, and it's a very geschmack lifestyle there. The Yidden there who are not affiliated, they're not missing anything. They're here, it's geschmack, it's great. Nothing's lacking. So if nothing's lacking, like how do you come, it's much harder, not how do you come, but it's much harder to reach a person where everything is going really well, and they're not missing anything, and they're entrenched in this world. So when a person realizes that, unfortunately it happens when people get sick, and then they realize that, oh my gosh, a person almost lost his life, he realizes what's really important, right? That's when he starts getting himself involved in things that are much more important. But a lot of us, the example here is an extreme example, but the Chovos Halevavos, I'm seeing, as we learn it together, he talks in extremes. So he says, if you prepare for tomorrow, you have no bitachon. And he says, you might die tomorrow. Right? That's the sprach. That's the language that he's using. But what he's really doing, as Rabbi Miller has been explaining again and again, he's just throwing out a concept in an extreme fashion just to get us to understand it. So he's saying in its purest form that if you plan for tomorrow, you don't be talking. In fact, Rabbi Miller, the Gemara Shas, everyone is planning for tomorrow. Everyone has money. Everyone has possessions. The Gemara is in Bamitzia. The Gemara, my son just learned in school, in yeshiva. You have to put a third of your money in real estate. A third of your money you have to in business, and a third tachas yadcha under your hand. Is the Gemara talking to people who don't have bitachon? He might die tomorrow, right? What's the point? No, a person has to think to the future. But the Chovos Halevavos talks in the way he expresses, communicates to us is in a very extreme way. But Lamaisa, he's saying a true point that applies to all of us. That in as much as I feel very confident that I'm here for the long haul, so ruchniya, spiritual pursuits are not going to call to me the same way. They're not going to attract me the same way. But if I realize that life is very frail, and who knows? Unfortunately, today we always hear, not today in particular, but in this period of time, we hear of people old, people young, passing away. It's a scary thing, right? Now, that's a good thing for us to contemplate. It shouldn't have to be with actual examples of that. But it's a good thing for people to contemplate that it's not so pashut, right? And there's going to be a day, Rabbi Miller, as he said last time, was preparing 5 pieces of the Chovos Halevavos to say over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a real reality that every second that we're alive, we're heading 1 second closer to that real reality. And we have to think about that, and that's going to motivate us to make the most of our time here. The Gra on his deathbed was crying. And they asked him, why are you crying? It's because for a few rubles I can buy tzitzis here. In the world to come, I can't buy tzitzis. In a sense, We spoke this out of Rosh Hashanah. In a sense, the world to come is the goal. That's the greater world, is the world to come. And Olam Hazeh really is just, it's like a tzel over, like a passing shadow. But in a different regard, it's the other way around. This is the Iker world. This world is the main world. Why? Because you can keep mitzvahs here. Whatever we do in this lifetime that is a passing shadow will give us eternal reward, or chas v'shalom the other direction, in the world to come. So in a sense, the main world, as far as doing what we're supposed to do, is here. Once we're there, it's called oimdim. I think the Chovos Halevavos brought this earlier. The olam haba, everyone there are oimdim. They're standing, they're stationary. This is a world of mahalchin, of walking. So we have the opportunity. But if I feel, and this is unbelievable likud he's bringing out here, if I feel that I'm set, so things aren't going to come. So minyan, okay, if I can, I'll make it. If not. Shabbos, whatever. Hilchos Shabbos. When am I going to learn that? Okay, I'll get around to it. But if a person knows that, in 6 months, Yankel is going to be called into Bezdin Shalmayla, and he has 6 months, they're going to take a look at how he kept Shabbos, what were his kviyasit in the Torah, but he's mamish going to organize himself really well, make sure he passes that test. We have no idea when that's going to be. It shouldn't be in 6 months or 2 years or 20. It should be a long time. But if we live with the concept that Hashem could call us in any moment, we would take our ruchnius much more seriously. The Baal Bitachon realizes that there's no guarantees in life. There are no guarantees in life. He doesn't remember his end. He's involved in this world, and he forgets his, doesn't look into his Torah, and he thinks it's here forever. And again, that's what causes to grow within him, his desire for this world. Desire for this world grows when a person thinks he's going to be here for a long time. Like we said, if you're on the train, you have no desire for window treatments. In your house, you do, which is not a bad thing. But the concept is true. We have to view this world like it's a train ride, as opposed to a house. Because when a person admonishes him and tries to teach him, and the teacher tries to say to this person, how long will you put off thinking about your provisions for the journey to your appointed destination? How long are you going to push it off for? Like you're busy amassing wealth. When are you going to get involved in ruchnius? Now, this person answers, what the answer is going to be, the whole next chapter is dedicated to debunking, right? The person is going to answer him that I'm going to wait until I have enough income to be very comfortable, and to provide for everyone who's dependent, all my dependents, at soif yameinu, to the end of days, right? I'm going to work really hard until I'm 35 or 40, so I'm going to give up the best years of my life, from let's say 20 until 40, right? Person could be very productive in those 20 years. I'm going to work really hard, I'm going to have no life, and then at 40 I'll retire. Some people have that plan. Tanuach nafshi midaygas and then my mind will be at ease from worldly worries. I'll be 40 years old. I'll have enough to last me my entire life, including my grandchildren. I can sit back and devote myself to ruchnius. And then I'll pay back my obligations to Hashem. I mean, we're talking about a from yid who knows he's mechuyev, he owes the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's to keep mitzvahs. He has a job in life. I'm going to first make all my money, and then I'll retire early, and I'll devote myself to Hashem. I'll think about preparing provisions for the appointed day later on. That's what the non-Baal Bitachon does. The Baal Bitachon, already from day one, is concerned. And he takes care of his parnasa, he takes care of his family, he does what he has to do. Yeah, what he has to do. But he's also at the same time not shirking his responsibility when it comes to his ruchnius, the spirituality. But the non-Baal Bitachon wants to first amass all the wealth he has, and then he'll worry about his ruchnius afterwards. That's the seventh difference between the Baal Bitachon and the non-Baal Bitachon. So again, to sum it up, the Baal Bitachon realizes that he might not be here forever. There's a chance he won't be here forever. And therefore, the Baal Bitachon sees his end. The end is in sight. The Ezer Hashem, it's 120 years away. But that end is still in sight. If the end is in sight, so I'm going to take my opportunities here seriously. And he's going to connect himself to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. The non-Baal Bitachon thinks, I'm here forever. Okay, one day I'll get to it. I'll get to it one day, and he never gets to it. That's the You're putting away money for a rainy day, but it never rains, as one of my rabbis used to say. So that is the end of the 5th chapter. That is the 7th difference between the Baal Bitachon and non-Baal Bitachon. If you think about a common theme between all 7 of these differences, it's all about tranquility. It's called Menuchas HaNefesh, which is really what the Chovos Halevavos said back in the beginning. I think in the first paragraph, even maybe in the introduction of Shaar Habitachon, he writes, what is the mahus of Bitachon? What is the essence of Bitachon? And so the essence is a Menuchas HaNefesh, tranquility, a peace of mind. So, if we can just sum the entire thing up in one line, it's basically realizing HaKadosh Baruch Hu was the only constant in my life. That is Bitachon. Hashem is the constant in my life. Once a person has that, so then everything else falls into place. So let's begin the Perek Shishi. We'll begin in the next couple of minutes, the 6th Perek of Shaar Habitachon. And this whole Perek is devoted to explain why a person is saying, I'll involve myself in spiritual matters later. First, let me take care of my Gashmias. Again, that's to the exclusion of my Ruchnius. Right? No one says you sit at home and wait for the food to fall from the sky. Right? A big portion of the Sefer is about doing proper ishtadlus to earn a living. But here we're talking about a person who says, I'm going to choose a profession where I'm working 15 hours a day. I'll be making a lot of money, for 20 years, and then I'll get involved in Ruchnius. Not a person who's saying, I have to support myself. Right? A person who says, I'm going to amass a lot of money so that later in life I can devote myself to Ruchnius. I think it's important to expose the foolishness and falseness of this approach to life. I will reveal the seriousness of their error in 7 ways. Although our discussion will be lengthy, it's worthwhile. So he's warning us that it's going to be a long discussion, 7 reasons why this mindset to amass wealth and then involve oneself in ruchnius and spirituality is incorrect. Says Rabbi Miller, people like to skip this. Like, Rabbi, I got the point, right? We all understand that it's wrong to dedicate 20 years to this world so that when you're 40, you'll be able to involve yourself in ruchnius, right? That's wrong. You have to do both at the same time. You have to support yourself and you have to learn. You can't. So people want to skip this, so we understand the point. They say, why do we need it? We accept what he told us. Certainly you shouldn't wait until Hashem gives you enough money. Of course you shouldn't do that. But the Chovos Halevavos says, listen to me. I have 7 arguments that will lock it into your mind. So the truth is, everything it says in the Sefer, we all pretty much knew beforehand. There are some chidushim. There's a big chiddush to me that the Baal Bitachon will be a popular person, that it helps you with socially. To me, it was a big chiddush. But more or less, the entire Sefer pretty much trust in Hashem, right? But the idea of musar, the idea of bettering and changing ourselves is that, of course, we know intellectually what to do. But we have to drive it home. We have to discuss it. We have to show, we have to see the 7 differences between the Baal Bitachon and the non-Baal Bitachon. We have to see now 7 reasons why the person who says, I'm going to amass wealth and then involve myself in ruchnius, in order for it to really make an impact on us and to go from the mind to the heart, we have to have this lengthy discourse. And I think we'll see, again, this is the example we're giving of 20 to 40. That's an extreme example. But there could be things in our lives where we're pushing off the ruchnius for some involvement in Gashmias in this world that we might want to rethink. So while the exact case that he's talking about, I don't think is relevant to any one of us. None of us put our entire Yiddishkeit on hold. There might be various areas of Yiddishkeit that we should be involved with. And after we go through this and we see how wrong that approach is, we might want to rethink one little detail of our lives. It could be. So Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow night we'll continue with the 6th Perek in Shaar Habitachon.
Are you doing it on Wednesday, Rabbi, or Thursday?
Oh, I'm sorry, correct. Very good. Thank you very much. Tomorrow night is the shiur on Hilchos Brachos, the Shabbos afternoon shiur. So we'll continue Thursday night with Chovos Halevavos.